The year was 2021. On the 28th day of September, just 7 years after Dora Akunyili mysteriously passed away, her husband Chike was by gunmen while the people watched.
I found out my father died by watching the video of him dying on the floor on Facebook. That's how I knew my father died.
Oh my God.
I found out from Facebook. I'm just seeing him struggling to breathe and everybody's there videoing it. Nobody even made an effort.
During Dora's tenure at NAFDAC, a drug agency in Nigeria, the Akunyili family received multiple threats from drug cartels and individuals involved in the counterfeit drug trade in Nigeria. This put immense pressure on Dr. Akunyili, who had to protect his family while maintaining his private medical practice. The threats reached a point where Dr. Chike Akunyili had to take additional security measures for his family. Although he remained calm and stable amid the dangers he faced, September 28, 2021, he was assassinated under shocking and violent circumstances in Nkpo, a town in Anambra State. He was attacked by gunmen in the company of his driver and police security while on his way back from a lecture in honor of his late wife. Dr. Chike, the driver, and security personnel were all assassinated by these gunmen while chanting "No election" in Anambra State. A man who devoted his life giving free medical services to thousands of people gone down in the pool of his own blood at the mercy of the same people he devoted his life helping, waiting to be taken to the hospital. But here is the shocking thing: a lot of people stood there, watched him while he struggled for his life. His assassination isn't even the most shocking part of the story. The most shocking part of the event is what led to his death. Why did no one dare to save his life? Did the same forces that tried to wife Dora Akunyili finally finished what they started through her husband? Who were these unknown gunmen? Was it IPOB? Who assassinated Dr. Chike Akunyili? And why have Nigerian government hasn't prosecuted anyone for this crime for years? However, what you need is to understand the psychology behind the events that eventually led to his assassination. And in this video, we will uncover the hidden truth. For us to understand why Dr. Chike Akunyili, we must first ask, who is Dora Akunyili?
Inefficiency in educational sector, health sector, political sector, governance and all, everything boils down to corruption. And corruption is not just about giving or taking money. Corruption is about not doing the right thing.
What kind of woman shakes a nation so violently? Why she faced more than 12 assassination attempts that even after her death, the system still wanted her silenced?
And I don't even envy corrupt people because they destroy themselves and destroy their children, generations unborn. We must change. If we don't change, nothing will change.
Dora Akunyili was born in Makurdi, Benue State, a bright young girl with dreams bigger than the system she was born into. She studied pharmacology at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, graduated in 1978. By 1985, she held a PhD in ethnopharmacology. It wasn't these degrees or the titles that defined her, but what she chose to do with it. In 2001, President Olusegun Obasanjo appointed her Director General of NAFDAC, and what she found was a system rotting from within. Corruption wasn't hiding, it was a norm.
Bribery in all sectors. I don't think there's any sector in Nigeria that is honestly left out. I cannot start lying out of patriotism. There's no sector that is left out. But the worst felt area is in health. Because corruption in the health sector is murder.
Regulators demanded bribes to do their jobs. Inspections were delayed on purpose. Counterfeit drugs flooded the market. Factories were producing poison in the name of medicine.
It's so terrible that we didn't even have statistics of what level of fake drugs we have in this country. And the problem was so bad that it was not even just limited to drugs.
Nigeria was a dumping ground for drugs, cosmetics and food products, illegally imported or counterfeit products, which were substandard quality, past their sell-by date, and sometimes even downright dangerous.
No one was stopping it. The result, a failed public health system. People were dying. Mothers gave their babies counterfeit syrup. Fathers swallowed fake malaria pills. Nigeria had become a dumping ground for fake drugs. Now, Dora Akunyili's death isn't even the most shocking part of the story. It is the events that eventually led to her death.
They've tried intimidation and harassment and, threatening my life. They didn't succeed. Now everybody is joining the bandwagon of anti-crusade to sanitize drug distribution, fake food, stop fake and unwholesome food, and strengthen regulation in this country.
Stay with us, because until you hear what really happened, you won't understand what Dora Akunyili was truly fighting against or why they wanted her gone. It was supposed to be just another week in Nigeria. Parents lined up outside pharmacies, carrying their babies with high fever, kids coughing endlessly in the arms of worried mothers. And like they've done many times before, they bought medicine. Paracetamol syrup, a basic over-the-counter drug meant to ease pain and bring down fever. Harmless, right? But what they never knew, what no one told them, was that this time, this medicine is poison. In just less than 1 week, 109 kids died. 109. A tragedy that will forever change the landscape of public health regulation and enforcement. Parents began rushing their kids to hospitals across the country, all reporting a terrifying and identical set of symptoms: acute kidney failure and the inability to pass urine. Within weeks, dozens of kids succumbed to this mysterious illness. It did not take long for healthcare professionals to connect the dots. The kids had one thing in common. They had all been administered a teething syrup branded My Pikin, manufactured by Barewa Pharmaceuticals. What followed was not just a national public health emergency, but a legal saga that would underscore the critical role of lab analysis in enforcing food and drug regulations. As NAFDAC, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, scrambled to mitigate the crisis, they discovered that this syrup, My Pikin, contained the ethylene glycol. This toxic substance is typically used as an industrial solvent and antifreeze, and its injection can cause renal failure and death. The investigations revealed that the contaminated batch of the syrup was manufactured at Barewa's Pharmaceuticals facility under deeply flawed conditions. NAFDAC acted swiftly, conducting a nationwide recall of My Pikin and sealing off Barewa Pharmaceuticals production facility. Investigators uncovered a series of failures. The chemical, the ethylene glycol, had been purchased by a school certificate holder employed by the company, who mistook it for propylene glycol, a harmless ingredient commonly used in pharmaceuticals. The company's quality control officer failed to test the raw material properly before its use. The production manager compounded the issue by authorizing production based on verbal assurances without written approval or documented tests. The resulting contamination of the syrup caused the death of numerous kids and exposed significant lapses in the company's quality control processes. Barewa Pharmaceuticals and its managers faced trial in a federal high court. The trial court convicted Barewa Pharmaceuticals on charges of selling adulterated drugs. This company was ordered to wind up and its assets forfeited to the federal government. The court also sentenced the quality control officer and the production manager to 7 years in prison each. But this wasn't just a tragedy. This was a by negligence. This was what happens when profit is placed above people. That week shattered Nigeria, but it woke a storm. It became a turning point the moment Dora Akunyili said enough.
Anti-crusade to sanitize drug distribution, fake food, stop fake and unwholesome food, and strengthen regulation in this country.
She hunted the manufacturers, she shut down the companies, she arrested the importers. She didn't care how rich they were, she didn't care who protected them, because to her, those 109 kids were not just numbers, they were Nigeria's future stolen by greed. This wasn't the first time fake drugs took lives in Nigeria, but it was the moment the nation could no longer look away. And never did she know these words will cost her life and her husband's life. They tried to her, they missed. They tried to silence her, she spoke louder. Dora Akunyili wasn't just fighting fake drugs, she was fighting a system, a rotten system, so terrified of the truth that it tried to her. They sent her death threats, they left bloodied feathers and caused beads in her office. They tried to bribe her, she said no. They fired bullets at her car, she survived. They burned NAFDAC buildings to ashes, she rebuilt them. But here is the part that will shake you to your core. Even with death breathing down her neck, she never backed down. In 2010, when President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua fell mysteriously silent, when the country was frozen in confusion, when even the powerful voices chose to whisper or say nothing at all, one voice refused to be swallowed. One woman stood up and did the unthinkable.
There are people around the president that are not telling us the truth. We should not shy away from that. That is the truth. Our president either comes out to talk to us, to completely douse the tension. It's also a slap on the faces of almost 150 million Nigerians. In fact, what they say to all of us is, all of you go to hell. And it is very sad.
She didn't just ask where the president was, she demanded answers on live television. It was bold, it was dangerous. It was the moment Dora Akunyili signed her own political death warrant. Because in Nigeria, the truth isn't just unpopular, it can get you. So, why did she do it? Why risk everything again? And what did she know that we weren't supposed to? Stay with us, because the moment Dora Akunyili spoke up, that was the moment everything changed. She stood up, she spoke out. Dora Akunyili challenged the silence. She demanded transparency. She dared to say what everyone else was afraid to even think. Where is our president? And then she fell ill. She survived bullets, she survived blackmail, she faced down corruption and refused to bow. But in the end, it wasn't a gunshot that brought her down. It was something far more silent, far more cruel. One day, Dora Akunyili, the iron woman of NAFDAC, started to feel weak. The same woman who stared death in the face for years was now fading away, slowly, painfully, and no one could understand why. Was it cancer? Yes, but the whispers started almost immediately. Was it just cancer? Or was this the final blow from the same enemies who had failed to her in public, now finishing the job from the shadows? She had fought for her country. Now, her country watched her suffer and die in silence. Stay with us, because what happened next will leave you questioning everything. At first, it was tiredness, fatigue, a lingering ache here and there, the kind of discomfort someone like Dora wouldn't even mention because she had bigger battles to fight.
Dora Akunyili, and you can address us sitting down. The chairman has directed.
Thank you very much, but I can stand. My name is Professor Dora Akunyili. Nigerians have for long clamored for opportunity.
But the pain grew louder. Her body, once firm with strength and purpose, began to shrink. For the first time in years, Dora was fighting something she couldn't see, something she couldn't control. The diagnosis came quietly, like a thief in the night. Cancer. It was cervical cancer, advanced. And the question everyone kept asking, even if they were too afraid to say out loud, was how? This woman who survived assassination attempts, they had fired bullets at her car, they had placed fetish objects in her office, they had attacked her staff, they had tried everything, and now she was dying slowly, publicly, and painfully. Was it truly just illness, or was it something more sinister at play? Had she been poisoned, like many whispered behind closed doors? Even as her body betrayed her, Dora never stopped showing up. She kept speaking, kept smiling, kept fighting, because that's all she had ever known. But behind those brave eyes was a woman who knew her time was running out. In June 2014, she boarded a plane to India for treatment, not just for hope, but because Nigeria, the country she gave everything for, could not save her. She died on the 7th of June 2014, not in battle, not in protest, but in a quiet hospital bed, far away from home.
The first time my mother told me that she loved me would be the last. My mother never cried. 4 days later, I was in a ferry in Geneva and a call came. It was from my sister. Chichi, Mommy Ango. Mommy's dead.
The moment her heart stopped, so did an era of fearless truth-telling, an era of service before self, an era where one woman stood taller than 1,000 cowards.
And millions called her the Iron Lady, the Amazon, Ugowemota, the Mirror of Wisdom, for the life that she lived that touched so many. Dearest Mommy, Omo, it is I, Chichi. I love you so much.
But when the nation thought the worst was over, a darker chapter was just about to begin. Because 6 years later, her husband would walk into a trap and never come out. September 29, 2021, her husband, Dr. Chike Akunyili, rose that morning with peace in his heart. He had just one mission that day: to honor the memory of his beloved wife at a memorial lecture in Onitsha, Anambra State. He was calm, he was proud. He stood on that podium and spoke of courage, never knowing that his own courage was being measured by men waiting in the shadows. After the event, he smiled, took photos, shook hands, then quietly stepped into his vehicle to return home.
I was with my dad that day. We went to the event together.
When he died?
Yes, we went on each other. One small, it was like an award with like 8 people in it. And I remember my dad went up there and said he and I were pledging 500,000. I met him outside. I said, I never discussed this thing with you. He joked. He said, my son, you're a DG now, just like your mother. He hugged me. I took the Onitsha road. I saw his car go inside. I found out my father died by watching the video of him dying on the floor on Facebook. That's how I knew my father died.
Somewhere along the way, the peace shattered. Gunshots, loud, ruthless, precise. His convoy was ambushed by armed men, unknown gunmen. That's what the headlines called them. But were they really unknown? They fired without mercy. Dr. Chike Akunyili was shot multiple times, point blank. His blood soaked the road. His body left slumped behind the wheel. His crime, honoring a woman Nigeria had already tried to forget. 7 people died in that attack, but it was his death that sent chills through the nation. Was it just a random in a violent region, or was it a message? A message that said, you honored her, you die with her. And suddenly, the questions returned. Did the people who tried and failed to Dora finally get their revenge through her husband? Was it political, ethnic, or something deeper? Something that had been boiling for years in silence. Speculation spread like wildfire. Some pointed fingers at IPOB, accusing them of trying to enforce the no election doctrine in Anambra. They came out and denied it. IPOB spokesperson Emma Powerful insisted that IPOB is not the same as the unknown gunmen responsible for the attacks. According to Powerful, IPOB has no issue with Dr. Akunyili or his family. He emphasized that IPOB's armed wing, the Eastern Security Network (ESN), was created to protect communities, especially women in rural areas, not to carry out violence. He blamed the politicians for the violence and assured that IPOB will go against anyone tarnishing their image. But the damage had been done and the fear had returned. This wasn't just an assassination. It was a warning to everyone who dared to stand for truth in a country built on lies. And through the grief, through the silence, one question still lingers. Did Nigeria Dora Akunyili twice? Now, let's connect the dots and unravel the mystery behind the unknown gunmen that Chike Akunyili. Unknown gunmen, a name that says everything and nothing. A phrase that has become synonymous to terror in Nigeria. Gunmen that strike in the shadows, no faces, no fingerprints, no justice. They say these gunmen are everywhere, in the forest, in the cities, on the roads. Some say they are criminal gangs, thriving in lawless land. Others say they are breakaway militants, enforcing chaos and fear. Many believe they are politically sponsored mercenaries, ghosts in the night, hired to and disappear. But how did the term unknown gunmen start in Nigeria? The history of unknown gunmen could be traced to the song of the late Afrobeat master Fela Anikulapo Kuti, which he titled Government Magic. On February 12, 1977, 1,000 soldiers of Nigerian army invaded Fela's shrine, popularly known as Kalakuta Republic. They wounded many people, burnt the shrine, destroyed many buildings, and through his mother, Mrs. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, the first Nigerian African woman to drive a car from the story building downstairs, breaking her legs, an injury from which she eventually died. The military government of General Olusegun Obasanjo faced heavy criticisms both within and outside Nigeria. Panel of inquiries were hurriedly set up and they came up with the conclusion that those who carried out this mayhem were unknown soldiers. Today, so many atrocities have been taking place, especially in Imo State and Igbo land in general. The people and the government are always quick to conclude, pointing accusing fingers either to Ebubago, Eastern Security Network (ESN), IPOB, or unknown gunmen. The question is, who are the real perpetrators of all these crimes in the southeastern Nigeria? The truth is, no one knows for sure, because no one is ever arrested, no one is prosecuted, no one is named, just the same recycled line on every news report by unknown gunmen. It is a phrase that has become Nigeria's signature of impunity, a national stain. And in that stain, we lost Chike Akunyili, just as we lost Dora Akunyili. Not to illness, not to natural causes, but to a system that devours its finest and protects its worst. And in a nation of ghosts, the question remains, how many more heroes must die before the unknown becomes known?